cave dwellers? Welcome back to another episode of The Cave Dive. Last time I sat here and I gave season 1 of Dandadan a perfect 10 out of 10, so I was going into season 2 with some very, very high expectations. And, season 2 is a little bit more complicated. Before we get started, we are on the road to 100 subscribers by the end of this year, so if you haven't done so yet, feel free to like and subscribe. It helps, please. But without further ado, why don't we just get into it? Season 2 picks up right where we left off in Gigi's hometown. His parents went through something rough, and the crew is hanging around trying to figure out what's actually going on with the house and the village. We eventually learn that there's a giant psychic earthworm underground that forces people to unalive themselves. On top of that, there's the Evil Eye, who also has the ability to push people towards that same fate. Long story short, they take care of the giant worm, Gigi ends up forming a connection with the Evil Eye, and allows it to possess him. Once that happens, Gigi is completely overwhelmed. He loses almost all sense of self whenever the Evil Eye takes over, which leads to some intense fight scenes, especially with Okudan. Eventually, Seiko steps in, they manage to seal Gigi, and a big chunk of the season becomes about trying to contain or control the Evil Eye's power. The second half of the season shifts gears, the focus turns more toward everyone getting stronger, and we get introduced to two major new characters. One is Kenta, the classic weeb otaku type, and the other is a giant kaiju situation that turns out to be Vamola. And once again, the season ends on a cliffhanger. So let's start off with the positives, because this season actually has some very high highs. The animation is still excellent. They continue to cook. In particular, the impact frames the first time that we fully see the Evil Eye in action are sublime. One of the first things that I noticed was the tonal shift. Season 1 felt chaotic, funny, and wild in a very free way. Season 2 gets heavier and more emotional, especially once the Evil Eye fully takes over. That change works more often than it doesn't, but it does change the overall feel of the show. The new opening by Aina at the end does fit the darker tone pretty well. It's more atmospheric than the Creepy Nuts opening in season 1. Me personally, I still prefer the original OP overall, but this one is still pretty good. You can add it to your playlist. But the emotional stuff is where this season really starts to hit for me. Everything involving Gigi's situation, and especially the Evil Eye's backstory, absolutely wrecked me. I had to rewatch this season several times so I could make this video for you guys, and I still found myself tearing up. It was simply too much. And the way Gigi responds to it, fully accepting the Evil Eye, refusing to let them take him away, even knowing the destruction that he can cause. It is genuinely beautiful. That character arc for both of them is one of the strongest things that the series has done so far. I also really liked watching Okudan step into his own more. There was an actual internal conflict in the group that felt grounded. When Gigi snaps and seriously hurts Momo, and you see Okudan go cold towards him afterwards, that tension was well written. Watching them work through that and figure out how to keep the Evil Eye under control was one of the more interesting stretches of the season. The whole crew dynamic feels different once Gigi is sealed and they're all living in closer quarters. There's more tension, but also more real teamwork starting to form. Ida feels a bit more like part of the group this season, rather than a spotlight character the way that she was in season 1. I'm fine with that overall, but she does get a little bit sidelined compared to before. The crew as a whole is growing in a way that I enjoy. Everyone in season 1 is still here, and they're starting to actually help each other more. Peeny Weenie and his son are still hilarious. I absolutely love those guys. Manjiro, Seiko's apprentice from the village, is around during the sealing and some of the village stuff, but he mostly stays in the background. He's not a big presence yet, so I don't really have a lot to say about him. And then there was that rock concert sequence, when they try to exorcise the Evil Eye out of Gigi, and it turns into this full-blown heavy metal performance that basically takes up an entire episode. That is my personal favorite part of the season, which is just pure bias talking, but I had zero problems with it. It was next level, and it actually ends up mattering later as a catalyst for Okudan's growth, so it's not just spectacle for spectacle's sake. Also worth mentioning, Momo and Okudan continue getting closer, which is always welcome, and because I've read the manga, I know that we're about to switch over to the more sci-fi side of things pretty soon. The next big arc is definitely sci-fi related, and you can already start to feel that shift with Vamola's introduction and the alien technology used to repair the house. Now, let's talk about the issues that I had. First, Gigi's character. He is such a loving and open-hearted person person, and we see that clearly when he accepts the evil eye. But the people who have been taking care of his family are very obviously shady. I never understood why Gigi didn't suspect them even a little. It felt slightly out of character that someone as emotionally intelligent as him couldn't sense that something was wrong with those people. And then there was the pacing, especially in the power-up and training sections. And I gotta say, this is probably the biggest problem for me this season. There's a sequence during the fight between Gigi and Okudun where Okudun continues to count from 1 to 20 while punching him multiple times. For me making these videos, I purposefully watched these episodes in 3x speed so I can get a gist of everything. And while I was watching those sequences, it still felt like it was dragging on. So if your show is still dragging on while I'm watching your show in 3x speed, there's a problem here. Same issue with the long montage of Momo working that new job in the maid outfit. It didn't really add anything meaningful to the story, and it just sat there for way too long. And then there's the whole stretch where Turbo Granny is trying to teach Okudun about rhythm by having him fight a bunch of ghosts and yokai based on classical artists like Beethoven. In the manga, that fight was already kind of mid, and in the anime, it felt significantly worse. The pacing was so slow that even at 3x speed, I was just waiting for it to end. That entire section was a slog for me. I also noticed that the humor balance felt a little bit off this time. When the story gets as heavy as the Evil Eye material, some of the usual Dandadan comedy doesn't quite necessarily land in those moments like it did in season 1. It's not a deal breaker, but it is noticeable. And me personally, I got some mixed feelings about our new weeb character, Kenta. On one hand, he's very relatable in the classic body pillow loving otaku way. He notices that Okudun is popular with the girls and completely misreads every social interaction, which is kind of the charm of the character. Sometimes it's hilarious, like his little backstory near the end of the season where he talks about people making fun of him for playing with robots, and he uses that to set his heart ablaze, or, you know, Sasageyo, or you know what I mean. That particular part made me laugh. Other times though, he just kind of gets on my nerves. He's a mixed bag, and even in the manga he's a mixed bag at first. Though if memory serves me correctly, he does grow on you later. But right now, watching him again in the anime, I'm on the fence about him again. Now, time for the final score. Where does all of this leave me? Season 2 of Dandadan is still a very good season of television. The emotional peaks are higher than anything in season 1. The animation still looks great. The character work with Gigi and the Evil Eye is excellent, but the pacing problems, a few awkward stretches, and the slightly uneven tone hold it back from reaching the same consistent level as the first season. I'm giving Dandadan season 2 a solid 8 out of 10. It didn't quite match the magic of season 1 for me, but it's still very much worth watching, and I'm still locked in for whatever comes next. But yeah, I think that's everything that I got for you guys in this video. Like I said before, we are on the road to 100 subscribers by the end of the year, so don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss a future upload, and feel free to leave a comment. What did you think about this season? Anyways, you guys stay beautiful, and I will see you in the next video. You still here?